Monday. I got AJ with Hippie Fertilizing in studio. I'm going to kick this on the FM. Feel free to share this out. Let us know what you have going on today and ask some questions. Here we go. Good morning. This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. It's Kickstart. My name is Gardy. It's 8:35 on a beautiful Monday right here in Lamarck, Texas. I got my friend AJ with Hippie Fertilizing in studio. We're going to be talking about the plant health pyramid, and I'm excited to learn all about it. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. So, yeah, plant health pyramid. Y'all ready to hop on the SSB train? Go dive deep into this soil biology thing with me, you know?
We're going to be learning today.
Like it's a succession of plant health, right? The plant health pyramid, it is about how it's important to have the right stuff for your plants, because with increased health comes increased pest and disease resistance. Okay, so for those of y'all who don't know, I really love to listen to stuff about agroscience and regenerative agriculture, because really in that field, when you start listening to agriculture, they dive way deeper into soil science than most people who talk about lawn care, right? Lawn care is generally about like, okay, we need nitrogen, we need a few nutrients. Some people are really getting more involved with the idea of like, how can we add the biological side to it, for sure. But still, it's the industry is inundated with how do we treat this and how do we kill that and how do we have no weeds on the lawn.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so with regenerative agriculture and agroscience, it's like, how can we incorporate different stuff to make our soils healthier, to make our plants healthier, which is really incredible. I'm glad that it's definitely a opening up in all sides, because, we all eat food, right? We eat food, breathe air, drink water. None of that's ever going to change, I hope.
Right.
And so the more we increase soil fertility, the better plants we get, the better nutrition we get, the better environment we get, all the above, So I was
win.
Yeah. Like we all win, get better nutrients in our soil, get better nutrients in our food. And there's a lot of studies that have to do with like what nutrients impact our health and how they impact our health physically, even mentally, right? Like magnesium is supposed to be really great with increased magnesium intake with stuff like stress, anxiety, depression, right? And it's so critical in photosynthesis, right? And in plant health and plant structure, and does a lot of different things, so I would rather us have like increased nutrition in our plants than like, I don't even like taking vitamins, dude.
Yeah, medicating.
Yeah.
For everything.
Or, here, take a vitamin. Like, okay, that has its effectiveness. I'm not hating on everyone who's like all about the Centrum or whatever, but like I don't really do that. Like the most thing I take, especially recently, I think it's like the worst year ever, is what is it called? Zyrtec.
Yeah. For allergies.
Yeah. Like, yo, hey Jay, I thought you didn't take pills. What are all these bottles? Zyrtec, dude.
Right. Yeah. Dr. Chapa, he calls that a pill for an ill. That treat, defeat. It's kind of like the same thing with your food and your lawn and everything else, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. But what if food can be your medicine?
Right. And then food can be medicine for the soil and for the plants, right? Something we've had prolific this year is brown patch. We've brought it up a few times. So, like, something I looked into, this is a little sidebar, okay, because I saw this on a lawn care, page on Facebook. Someone said, oh, I got brown patch. I put down copper fungicide. Well, let me tell you, folks, please do not do that, all right? It mainly works like on plant tissue above the ground, so it's going to work better on stuff like tomatoes and roses, right? It's not going to work on your brown patch in your soil for your lawn. It impacts different types of airborne fungal issues. So I'm just putting that out there. Like, I know we all got brown patch. I got it. What have you. Stay away from the copper and fungicide because it's not gonna impact your brown patch really. And too much copper in the soil can be toxic. So, be careful with that.
Mm-hmm.
However, we're getting into the plant health pyramid. All right, and so what's like the number one thing that plants do to create energy and food?
So I might have been absent this day in biology. So the number one thing that they do to create,
Yeah.
I don't know without being wrong.
Like, what does sunlight help with?
The plants grow.
Sure. Yes. Photosynthesis.
I was going to say that because you did mention it earlier, but I was like, I could be totally wrong. Photosynthesis. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's like number one, stage one, boom, photosynthesis. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, that's how plants make their own food. Kind of true, kind of wrong. And what I mean by that is really healthy plants are making food for microbes in the soil. But yeah, step one, increased photosynthesis, because according to the John Kemp guy and his podcast, he's like, lots of soils don't have enough stuff, so their photosynthesis is really only at like 15 to 35% effectiveness, which is really low.
It should be at 100 or closer to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's put it this way, okay? If you have a solar panel, right, and you're supposed to get, let's say 100 kilowatts out of it. I'm just making this number up. I don't know about that stuff. But, we let's say we get cloud cover, and now you're getting, 50 kilowatts out of it. Well, boom, move the clouds out of the way, you get back to getting 100. All right, so imagine your plant's not healthy. It's a little baby solar panel, right? And it's only at like 15 to 50% capacity. So it's not producing all the stuff that it can produce to even help itself or the microbes in the soil. So number one is like level one of the plant health pyramid is complete photosynthesis.
Okay.
Now, check this out. This is what he says. He says, things that are necessary, absolutely necessary for plants to absorb to get to that complete photosynthesis. Magnesium, iron, manganese, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Okay? Now, hey, what's up, Jordan? Good morning.
He said hi, hippies.
Yo, what's up? Anyway, so
do I count? I count as one of the hippies now. I think so.
Yeah, dude. Air
I'm
five.
Here. Bam.
Magnesium, iron, manganese, nitrogen, phosphorus. Okay. Yes, we all know plants need nitrogen. I just recently kind of did some homework and found out, wow, I need to give them way more nitrogen. We'll get into that in a minute. But magnesium, iron, and manganese are very essential parts of the photosynthesis process. One of them, I wish I would have wrote this note down. It's manganese. I think it's manganese, but don't quote me just yet. It's either magnesium or manganese. I know it's narrowed down to one of those two. Is 100% essential in a process like the hydrolysis process in plants. So it's how it uptakes water. You can't uptake water without that micronutrient.
You need it.
Yeah, dude. And I think, like, how amazing. That sounds so fantastic to me. A plant does a process called hydrolysis. Right?
Yeah.
And nitrogen, yes, people are like, oh, we need it to green up plants. But why? Nitrogen is taken up by plants to make enzymes and amino acids. And amino acids are like the building blocks of all growth for all of us, for every like living creature on Earth, as far as I know.
So I did know that because I did a science project on it in high school. Amino acids are the building blocks of life.
Yeah.
In general, just life.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it takes lots of nitrogen, yes, to build those amino acids, along with everything else. But you need lots of nitrogen because that's like the backbone of amino acids. And plants are amazing because they're the only thing that can take nitrogen in its different forms and turn it into amino acids.
So do you feel it's important for people to know the why? Like, because they say like nitrogen, yeah, it greens my gas. That's my why. But also it helps, the amino acids and helps everything. Is that important?
I think it's absolutely important because the more of the why you know, the more you can take a calculated approach, right? And because there's different forms of nitrogen, there's different ways that it's going to take it up, because in the end, there's different ways that it's going to learn to give it back.
Okay.
Or not learn. It already knows this. It's in its DNA, literally. So second on this plant health pyramid, we have complete protein synthesis. Okay? So now it's absorbing and creating proteins, right? And what the guy says is that level 1 and level 2, he just made this pyramid for us humans to like understand about plants, something we really don't understand sometimes. Number 1 and number 2 happen at basically the same time. Okay, the more you get complete photosynthesis, the more you're getting complete protein synthesis. And for this, you need magnesium, again, sulfur. I want to say it's molybdenum. I can't say this word, molybdenum. There we go. Something like that.
You know more than we do.
It's a hard word for me to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, and boron. All right. Which is something I've been hearing about for a while. My mentor, Eric Putnam, was like, yeah, lots of plants don't have boron. And I was like, well, I'm a moron because I knew nothing about boron.
Right.
Anyway, magnesium, sulfur, molybdenum, and boron. Now, boron is really something that's deficient in a lot of plants everywhere. And the coolest thing about increased boron is that alone, right, is something that has been shown to show significant increase in insect resistance and resilience, right? So, complete photosynthesis, number 1. Complete protein synthesis, number 2. Those are on the first half. Now we get to some really exciting stuff, I think.
Okay.
Increased lipid synthesis. All right. Now lipids are like oils, fats, and waxes. Now, I didn't even think about this for the longest time, right? Typically, if we think of oils and fats, what do you think of?
I think of food.
Yes. Think of food, but I'm thinking of like a steak.
Okay.
Right? I'm thinking of animal fats.
Okay.
And oils. But then it doesn't, dawned on me like we're using Crisco and canola oil and stuff like vegetable oil. Like, wow, plants do have oil. Ding, ding, ding. It's been in front of my face my whole life. My grandma was throwing that stuff on everything.
Right.
That's a food group. So plants begin absorbing the majority of nutrients in the form of microbial metabolites, which are extremely energy efficient. And so this is when you get to the part where they have increased resistance to all of the airborne fungal pathogens. Okay. Now what this means is that once you are getting past the first stage, you get into the second stage, increased lipid synthesis, and in the third stage, or the fourth, I'm sorry, because they do go together, is increased plant secondary metabolite synthesis, meaning that plants are doing a very, very good job at producing very healthy exudates for microbes. All right, so let's see. Manganese is an important nutrient for plant growth and development. Yes, Conroe, thank you for that. You're absolutely right.
He's dropping nuggets, wisdom.
Dude, thank you. So lipid synthesis and the plant secondary metabolite. what this all equates to says that it requires a very aggressive microbiome in the plant rhizosphere. What's the rhizosphere?
That's a question. That's the answer. I do not know. I don't know.
Okay. And that's good, because that also tells me probably other people don't know it, right?
Right.
And that's why I'm here. The rhizosphere, all right, is the area directly around the roots, the sphere of the root. Okay?
I'm gonna write that down. I feel like that's gonna be on the test later.
Yeah.
Rhizosphere.
It's something that we should know, right? There's a whole lot more to go into plants, but yeah, to me, like, that's like in the top 10 of a basic one. To me, I know I look into this stuff a lot more than the average Joe. But so what he says was, when you get past step 1 and step 2, or complete photosynthesis, complete protein synthesis, and you start getting into lipid synthesis.
There's a good question.
What's that?
Before we get too far from it. So this is from Mike. He said, so adding boron and sulfur early in plant life stage helps pest resistance?
In all stages, yes. In all stages. Not just the early stage, because these, they're necessary throughout all stages. So that was a great question. Although, I do want to, always encourage people to be very cautious and take it slow. You can go too far with sulfur very quick, right? And sulfur will then turn into something like copper. It'll start killing stuff, okay? Now, boron, I know that it's deficient in soils and a lot of plants. So I haven't really heard of overusing it, but just like with anything, you can overuse stuff. So, as they say in the lawn care world on some of these videos, you want to spoon feed it. All right? Sometimes you may just need a teaspoon. Sometimes you want a tablespoon. But spoon feed it. Don't overdo it. All right? So I had something I was brewing.
I think talking about the lipid synthesis or something. It was the next level on the pyramid, I believe.
Yeah. So when you get into these, you get the increased microbiome, you get increased plant activity. That's what it was. Is that what he says is when you get to this higher stage of plant health, what happens is the microbial profile around the rhizosphere will completely change, right? To one that's even more supportive of the plant health. So it's really, I think it's neat and fascinating to think man, these things are constantly going back and forth in a trade-off. Why am I not seeing all the comments?
I don't know. Mine are blowing up. Mine are good. The phone, my phone does that too if I'm watching a video. So if you're watching on social media, we stream on Facebook, we stream on YouTube, whatever works for you. We also are on KHEA Radio.com at 99.5 FM. But it also, it's weird. Yeah, the platform that you're on, because you kind of get used to. It's hey, you can ask questions on Facebook, but sometimes you don't see all the comments, or sometimes it skips over one and you'll see it later. So it's really interesting.
Mike, maybe something was misunderstood. Sulfur doesn't turn into copper. I was saying it's like copper, you need a very small amount of it, because too much of it can be bad. Right? So too much copper can be bad real quick. Too much sulfur can be bad. They both have they're both used in strong concentrations as pesticides. Right? And for y'all who don't know, some of you do who listen, that's one thing I stay away from, really, honestly, is pesticides, because if you're killing little tiny bugs, right, imagine all the little tiny things you don't see that you're potentially killing. So just wanted to clarify that. As far as I know, sulfur does not turn into copper, because I think that's how I read that comment. But, little tiny bits can help a lot. Now, there is a lot of locked up nutrients in our clay soils. All right? Yeah. And this kind of brings me to something that I talk about often, but it's worth mentioning like every single time because this stuff is like black gold.
Mm-hmm.
Molasses. The more I learn about stuff, the more I'm like, if I had to pick one thing of all things to keep to feed plants and like you can't have anything else, everything else is gone, what do you pick?
You're picking molasses.
Molasses, dude, for real. Because you got sugars, you got carbohydrates, which plants need to produce carbohydrates for the microbes, so you're kind of giving them some so the microbes can have more to give to the plant. You got iron, you got magnesium, you got manganese, you got little tiny amounts of copper, you got potassium. So you got, like almost half the list, if not more, of what you need for plants, plant health, and soils just in molasses. It's like, dude, how much more easy and simple can you get? And if you haven't looked it up, one of my favorite brands is called Golden Barrel. I buy mine from a restaurant supply, right? And
right.
So sometimes you see me out there like, did he just eat that? You're darn straight. I'm in my truck and I just ate some molasses. So
Conrad said he puts that stuff on everything.
That's right, Conrad. I know it. And you know what? Oh, man, I don't know if you can, Conrad. If you could, somehow, post some before and after pictures of what your lawn has been like. My favorite one, I think, of all time is what his lawn looked like when it snowed this year. Because his lawn didn't have no snow.
And why is that?
Because the soil was so active and warm. He literally had green grass, right? Basically, while everyone else was covered with 6 inches of snow up in Conroe. Sorry for throwing your stuff out there like that, but dude, it was incredible. It gave me a lot of faith in what I do because it's like, what do I do to my lawn? Here's what you do. Throw some Humates Plus, some humic acid, some molasses, and call it a day.
Conrad had no snow. There's a story, there's a book there, like a children's book or something like that. In the style of Dr. Seuss.
In the style of Dr. Seuss. I like it. I love it.
Yeah.
So something else that I found fascinating that this gentleman said, because he's talking about soils, he's talking about it exactly with the way that aligns with, my values, what I believe. Hey, it's about microbes. It's about feeding that population. It's about giving it what the plant needs in terms of building that bacteria fungal relationship with the plant, not just fertilizer, right? Because those are very, very, very different approaches. So he says this, if you have one plant, say you may have 2,000 different kinds of bacteria down there around the rhizosphere, right? Now, if this doesn't blow your mind, I'm so sorry, because it really should.
Okay.
Is that if you have 2 different plants in the same area, right? You would think maybe you have 4,000. Or no, he said 1,000, right? And he said, okay, if you have 2 plants and maybe you have 2,000. He said, no, you have 10,000.
It just, that's not even a double. I don't know the math. 10x.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. 10,000. That's 5 times more. All right. And then he's like, and then the more you put different stuff, it just explodes. I love all these soil scientists that I listen to. They'll all say we're barely peeling off the top layer of what's going on here. Right. So with that being said, though, you go from one plant, 1,000 types of microbes, 2 plants to 10,000 types. To me, that perfectly plays into my thing that I tell people, hey, quit trying to kill the weeds.
Yeah.
Right? Quit trying to have one species of grass. If you got a little Bermuda and you're St. Augustine or vice versa, hey, it's okay. It's still grass. But that would mean that the more we increase this biodiversity, the more we're increasing pest and disease resilience. Because you're exploding. Because almost all these soil scientists across the board agree that the more biodiversity, the microbial diversity you have in the soil, the less problems you have. period. And so, I would love
Less problems?
less problems, absolutely. Or, my thing I just lit up about recently was like, oh, okay, so follow this information, follow, trying to put these things in here in the right amounts and stuff, and keep doing what we're doing by chugging along on the SSB train. But chinch bug resistant lawns.
That's the dream, right?
Dude, like that is the golden egg from the golden goose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was super stoked about the idea of like, man, if I keep going, I could have chinch bug resistant lawns. And I've seen some, because I have my buddy Jason, who's has, if you're farther away and you hear us and you're ever looking at stuff, go look up Friends with Mercantile on Amazon and buy through him, right? But he puts down all the goods on his lawn too. Right next door, chinch bugs. His house, no chinch bugs. Right, so I'm like, man, I know there's something to it. I had a customer over in Magnolia Creek in Lake City, and his lawn had a nasty chinch bug infestation. I just threw down a whole bunch of hippie blend on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still turned green. Still had chinch bugs, but most lawns you see that have chinch bugs will just decline no matter what, right? Not his. His was coming back. And I would go back and check. Still had chinch bugs, but it wasn't going backwards. Like, dude. Microbes, biology.
It works.
For the win. Yeah. You still got to do something about it.
Yeah.
Okay? I bet there's still lawns right now with chinch bugs. But definitely threw down like all the goods for the plant health. And because his neighbor, honestly, not my customer, had a great looking lawn. Okay. He's like, AJ, I need you to step up your game. I'm like, all right, man, we're taking the escalator. We're moving on up.
Yeah.
And we did. It's not quite at that level that the neighbor's at, but it's such a significant difference from where it was at. And if you do have chinch bugs or most bugs, Blue Dawn soap and water. I'm telling you, it's like the safest thing y'all can do.
Yeah, I know you had said something about ants, and it wasn't Dawn. It was something else.
Orange oil.
What is it?
Orange oil.
Orange
or there's
oil.
a product called Come and Get It, but it works best specifically for fire ants.
Okay.
Yeah, Come and Get It by Fertilome. Love that stuff. Works great. You can sprinkle it on the pile, around the lawn. They'll go pick it up, take it in their mounds. And it works because it's like a bacteria that infects the ants. That kills them.
I almost put Dawn on him the other day. I was like, I know he said put Dawn on some bugs or this chinch bugs. I think it wasn't. I was like, it was something else.
No, you can do soap on ants too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's be really clean.
Squeaky clean.
Yeah. So my son had a birthday party, and we had Lone Star Party Rentals bring out a bounce house in the backyard.
With
and I
Todd?
was looking around. Yeah, Todd. And there was a ant pile like back there, and I was like, oh, great. What am I going to do?
Yeah. Hey, what some people do is they just put a pot of boiling hot water on them.
I've done it.
Yeah.
It works.
You'll have a brown spot because it'll kill everything, but it'll also kill ants,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So, going back to the plant health pyramid, the complete photosynthesis is where it all starts, right? And then also the protein synthesis. Well, I like Microlife Hybrid a lot. And I like my Super Soil Conditioner a lot. I don't think I tried it enough to even give it the credit it deserves, because in the few areas I used it on my own lawn are still outperforming the rest of the areas. And I put some heavy stuff down on different areas, and it looked great, but where I put the other stuff is where I have the most brown patch. And where I put my Super Soil Conditioner, I have the least amount of brown patch. But something that's in those products, okay, it's called Neutraline. It's a urea methylene. Now, what that means is it's a slow release nitrogen, super low salt index that urea methylene has a strong covalent bond, right? So it doesn't break down easy. Microbes have to eat it up, like pull it apart, basically. Now, I finally asked the question, because I love this urea methylene stuff. I really do. For lawns, it's amazing. And I was like, I wonder if they have this in a liquid. Can I get this in a liquid? Guess what, y'all? I found it in a liquid. In the liquid, guess what it has with it? Corn syrup, molasses, brewer's yeast, and yucca. Okay, why is that exciting? Right? We're feeding microbes with all the sugars, but that yucca, as a wetting agent, helps stuff penetrate deeper in the soil too. So it's like this company that I overlooked for a long time, because y'all already know I love Microlife, right? But this other company is called Organics. You probably may have or may not have heard of it. Well, they have a couple products that are, their whole thing is all about, soil science and biology. So I was talking to the dude and reading up on their stuff. I'm like, oh, hey, man, they're singing my kind of music. But I looked at this stuff, and of course, though, I find this at the beginning of fall.
Yeah.
Like, great. So how well is it going to work? I'm going to have to keep testing it for like the next 7 months to get a full view on how effective it is. But I can tell you this, like the hippie juice that we already put down is awesome, because I've tested other humic acid products, and I didn't test them very lengthy, but I tested them enough to know, like, I kind of go off of a few things, like, how does it smell? It sounds goofy, but sometimes how does it taste? Okay? How does it feel? Like, what does it do? And they're so similar, right? I'm like, dude, you're saying your product's better. You're saying your product's better. I get it. Y'all have to sell your stuff, and it's a good product. Not going to knock them. But with all that y'all have going on and trying to get me to buy bottles of liquids, I can just dump another pound of powder in my stuff and outcompete that stuff, So what we have had in the past few years for the hippie juice application is really great stuff. But this coming year, it's going to get an upgrade, because I'm finding one way or another to add that nitrogen source that doesn't burn, because that's always a factor, so that we can help get this complete photosynthesis and protein synthesis. Because it's something that I realized that I've been overlooking for so long. Like, oh, we don't need nitrogen, it's in the atmosphere. Turf is hungry, y'all, compared to most things. Now, can you get it to a level to where you don't really need a lot of nitrogen? Yes, absolutely. But basically, most of us are still in like the beginning stage or in a stress stage. It needs a boost. So that is something that's going to happen in this next year. Like, it's really good, but you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to get even better.
So you mentioned something about, I guess, the yucca kind of helping break down the soil. And then you also talked about nutrients locked in the soil. Mm-hmm. Is that part of it, that yucca is helping unlock that, or is it just helping break down the soil so that way like the juice and the liquid can get in there?
I won't say it helps break down the soil. It helps penetrate the soil.
Okay.
So it goes deeper through the soil, so you can get a deeper like root zone profile, right? Because if you're penetrating at like a centimeter, it's not going to be as effective as you're penetrating at like 2 inches or 3 inches. Right? It doesn't seem like much when we talk about it in those terms, but in soil and root zones and turf grass, that's a lot, a whole lot.
I mean, you want to get as much around the rhizosphere as possible.
Yeah, and you want it to go even deeper. If you have stressed out lawns, you want it to go deeper than the rhizosphere, so it'll essentially encourage that root zone to go deeper.
I was pretty proud of myself for using Rhizosphere in there's a conversation there.
I
was like, thank you. I was looking around like, anybody got me? Okay, just me. All right, I did it.
No, that was a totally solid one.
All right.
So, there we go, folks. I hope that really adds a little bit of some thought to everything, some information. Of course, I always want to encourage anybody and everybody, like, ask questions, ask different questions. Because, if you saw it on one website, check that reference. But ask, because I guarantee you, please, everybody, try this out. Go like ask the question, how do I fertilize my lawn? Okay? And see what answers you get versus how do I feed my soil? Vastly different.
Here's another question that came in from Mike, because we're talking about, hey, ask the questions, feeding the soil, fertilizing. What's the difference, right? There is a difference. Mike said, how does oxygen play a role? I remember as a kid having a tool and we would puncture the yard.
Okay. So oxygen is necessary for all the microbes. It's necessary for oxidation. It's like in healthy plant environments, for most of us, we want aerobic bacteria. And I'm glad you brought that up because, so instead of puncturing the lawn necessarily, it's called like core aeration. I like to just promote everything the way I do it, feed the soil, feed the microbes, because they'll promote a process called soil flocculation, which allows soil particles, soil aggregates like sand, silt, clay, rocks, to clump together to naturally open up that soil. Because yes, even the further you go down with open soils, more porous soils, you want it to breathe and you want it to drain. You want it to have what some in the industries of lawn care and plant health and agriculture, you want gaseous exchange. And so, yeah, the deeper you can get oxygen down into the soil, the better. It's super critical. Like, you don't think of it. We think NPK, right? Well, what's the other thing? O. We need some O. You do need oxygen.
Oxygen.
Yeah. You need H2O, right? You also need CO2. That's a very important part of the plant health process.
And hippie juice.
Yeah,
that's the other one.
You definitely need HJ, man. Hippie juice all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, is there anything else?
Yeah. So listening to this guy, right? There was a Q&A on the video, and one of the people said, so what are some things that can impact the soil in a negative way when you've beefed it up like this? The first thing he said was, well, if you get about 5 days of rain, it's going anoxic, meaning like its oxygen levels are lowering. Meaning it's like encouraging, it's not encouraging aerobic bacteria. Yeah, that's dying off. And then it is, would be encouraging like anaerobic bacteria. And I'm thinking like, man, that perfectly plays the role of this year. This has been a wet, wet, wet year. How many times did we have rain for extended periods of time? And then on top of that, like, and I did it myself this year. I normally don't water my grass, could almost care less. I'm out fixing everyone else's lawn.
Right, yeah.
Excuse me. But this year, I wanted to test out the blends. I wanted to, like, have that line of domination even on my lawn, Like, look at my grass, look at their grass. It's still greener, but I got bigger brown patches,
It was the eggs.
No, that part looks good.
Okay, it was the egg. Yeah.
No, on one section where I tried, like, the Hippie blend, which is basically, like, all the granular MicroLife products thrown into one, okay? That's where I have lots of brown patch, but that's also where I watered the most, okay? And we had all this rain, wet weather, get these perfect temperature conditions, boom, brown patch. But that kind of made me think, like, we have this anoxic soil conditions or stuff that's promoting that. And then it makes me definitely aware and think of, like, okay, well, if we're having a heavy rain season, I need to be diligent and vigilant in a different way on soil management, because it's not really lawn fertilizing necessarily that I do. That's just like the secondary thing that's happening, right? The first thing that I'm really trying to do and accomplish is soil management, And so with this newfound awareness and knowledge, I'm like, okay, I need to take a different kind of vigilant approach on this soil management so I can reduce this brown patch stuff. Oh, and the second thing he said was, okay, the next condition, right, is heat. So we always get to August. It's hot. And he says something about plants getting stressed out. They almost become like cannibalistic in the sense of like they're eating themselves, right, to stay alive, to produce that energy, because the heat is taking such a toll on it. It's not producing energy in the same efficient way.
So those are the two things. It's too much water. It gets too much rain, and then it's heat. So
Yeah.
I think, and we've talked about this before, more than anything, you just have to be on top of it.
Oh,
Like, you have to know, like,
As
hey, I'm
much
going
as
to
you
water,
can.
turn it off. Water, turn it off. You got to watch and be aware.
yeah, definitely. But then, if it's raining so much, what kind of way can we feed the soil again to give it that boost? Because I can put all the good stuff on there in the world, and it's going to have a huge impact for sure. But you get, 2 straight weeks of rain, well, maybe we need to go throw a half a gallon of molasses on all these lawns again to give them a microbial kick and some nutrients, Whereas, like, I didn't really think about it that way before. And then the dry part, it's absorbing nutrients in a different way, like the nitrogen sources. Those are super important. So he says, and I like to take this stuff and try and apply it to lawns, when they're getting hot and everything and you get these conditions, it's not that the pests are coming because it's hot. It's coming because of the way the plants are utilizing different forms of nitrogen now, like ammonia and nitrates, because it's not being very efficient. So it's attracting those bugs. And I'm like, I want to find a way that I can get what's called a plant sap analysis in the middle of freaking August, before August and in the middle of August, to find out what nutrients are in this grass right now, because that will tell a very important story on like what I should do to make these chinch bug resistant lawns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
It's coming soon.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
Making it happen.
So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, they want to check out your website, they want to get that hippie juice put on the yard to make it look nice, what do they do?
So you can call me, okay? 832-277-3710. Go straight to my cell phone. Check out hippiefertilizing.com. We also, if you just want to go straight to the store because you're like, I heard enough, I want to try this, put on some hippie juice right now, you can go straight to hippiefertilizer.com. And if you go there now, through the end of November, you can get 15% off of any one of our services. If you put in the coupon code, all caps, SSB. Oh, and just a reminder, y'all, it's going to be my birthday next week. What?
Happy birthday.
So, yeah, check out hippiefertilizing.com. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. All those, just search Hippie Fertilizing. You will find all the outlets that I'm on, but I'm usually on Facebook and YouTube. Those are the best ways if you want to follow. But the best way to reach us is fill out a contact form on our website or call me at 832-277-3710.
What do you want for a birthday?
Kitchen towels.
I love it.
Yep.
You're awesome. Hey, thanks for hanging out today.
Thank you.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM.